conversation hosted by C.J. Abernathy for South Dakota District 23 Senate 2020. A father, a Marine Corps combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, Purple Heart recipient, with a bachelor's degree in information technology software engineering. CJ is a podcast producer and host. Please check out our social media pages for more information. If you would like to join this broadcast, click the link in the description to join. Coffee and a conversation starts now. Have a good day or don't, the choice is always yours.
God give me the coffee in this world to accept the things I cannot change, the creamer to add to it to make it better. Good morning, everybody. Oh, but not too much creamer. Good morning, everybody. It's your boy CJ, the Internet Warlord, coming to you live and loud from the great state of Meth Dakota, the state formerly known as South Dakota, until the Queen of Meth herself, Governor Christine Noem, declared us all on meth by proclamation and therefore giving birth to a new state known as Meth Dakota. Man, do I wish that wasn't true. Man, morning. All right, little housekeeping. If you'd like to join the conversation, it's as simple as taking your booger picker and tapping it here to your dumb box, and you can join the conversation. So instead of whining and complaining about what I say on the internet, you can actually participate and save yourself the headache of having to have long, stupid conversations in the discussion threads that are meaningless, change nothing in the world, and again, are basically have no point at all. It's dumb to argue in Facebook comment threads. But my broadcast, though, however, is my giving you the opportunity to say, hey, if you disagree with me, there's a button, an outlet for you, where you don't have to, like I said, hide in the Facebook comments like somebody who's afraid to have a conversation. Now, last night it got pretty personal between me and a former colleague, another brother in arms, where they took what I said pretty personal. I understand when you get triggered that your first natural instinct to react is to attack the person, not the idea, not my statement, but what I'm actually, you'd rather attack me, and I understand that, I don't I don't blame you for acting the way that's predictable. It's almost like it's a rerun at this point of of people that disagree with you. So, but again, so if you're watching this, feel free. You can utilize the comments if you want. I'll display them on the screen as long as they're appropriate. And like I said, there is a link for everybody to join. So, with that being said, today we're going to get into a much heated topic. If you didn't know, I brought back Internet Warlords last night. And I had to go through Facebook and kind of get a rough count. And I said, well, I've done thousands and thousands of broadcasts, but we're just going to call this one 50. So I did. I'll just start there then. But we broke down the Rayshard Brooks shooting. We went through it all last night. The video of the body camera, the district attorney here, and then all the way to the report that I at least saw first, which was Axios here, that says that the officer involved in that shooting is being charged with murder. Now, listen, when it comes to it, please don't make me have to start defending Republicans. I know libertarians love it when I'm like, Democrats are stupid, Republicans are stupid. That's fine and dandy, but if we talk about being those people that look across the aisle at both sides and go, well, they're right on this aspect, they're right on this aspect, they're wrong on this aspect, they're wrong on that aspect. If we pride ourselves in being that middle group, those people on the bridge, while they're stuffing TNT and dynamite and C4 on the each end of their bridges, we're the ones on the bridge saying, hey, maybe there's a different way to do this than blowing up the bridge. So you're not going please don't make me start defending Republicans. Note I didn't say Trumplicans. I said Republicans. Kendall's about to go be at her job, do her work. You guys still have to wear masks when you're with a patient. Fair enough. That's good. That's progress. All right, so what's that? All right, love you. Have a good day at work. So we went through this. As you guys know, again, this is one of the things that, again, it's a moot point. But when you go and you try to burn down the restaurant, you don't think for a second that, wait a minute, you see that? Look right here. You see this right here? Let me make it bigger screen here for you guys. This right here, you tried to burn it down. That's called a camera. That camera has what's called evidence. Inside this building is most likely a database of the whole event from different angles. If you try to burn down the building, how do you recover the data from the camera? People are stupid in this world. Okay? That's something that I noticed last night that I wish I would have pointed out. Now, of course, Donald Trump is weighing in, and Donald Trump has his opinion, and Donald Trump doesn't, for 1 second, back down on defending law and order. All right? And it to me, it's like, well, what did you expect? What did you expect Trump to do? Exactly what he's gonna do. Rashard Brooks shooting. Trump says police not being treated fairly. Okay, well, I'm gonna say that. Well, okay, let me finish here. President says he hopes officer charged with felony murder gets a fair shake at his trial. Again, here's even a better picture right here of why you don't burn down the building that has the camera that's recording everything, people. Now, again, it's a tragedy. It's not. I'm not saying that a person dying isn't a tragedy, but as we discovered last night, one of the people that I have come to respect the opinions of here on social media, Dakota Kid. You and I have. We don't always have to agree on everything, but where we do agree, I think that we have that understanding of where we're coming from, and I'd hope that when we disagree, if we disagree, we have that understanding as well. And that same goes for everybody else, that this right here, a good cop would have, just let him sleep it off, walk it off, whatever, just wouldn't have arrested him. Listen, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. This man, and we can go back to it because I've kept it, here again, thanks to Discuss Global, Miko Hayes out there in Kansas for posting the footage, gave us this and said, hey, you can watch it all for yourself from start to finish. Okay?
Yo, what's up, my man? Hey, what's up, man? Hey, man, you're parked in the middle of Drive-through line here. Hey. Sir.
25 westbound at Jones.
What's up, man?
25 west.
Hey, you're parked in the drive-through right now. Hey, sir. You right?
Black Toyota Camry and an unknown.
Dude, you're parked. You're sitting in the drive-through line here. What's up? So you're parked in the drive-through line. You're blocking traffic here. You were sleeping when I walked up here. What's up, man? You just have a long day or something? What's up?
He even gave him the excuse. Like, this is where we were talking last night. At this point, he's like, hey, man, you crashed out because you just wanted to get some chicken nuggies after working a double, dude? Like, what's going on, man? Like, gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like, it's like, hey, man. And this is the key pivotal point in this that most people are going to miss.
All right, yeah, you're blocking. People calling said you were blocking me, all right? You good? You don't need an ambulance or anything like that? Are you just tired? All right, man, just I'll move my car. Just pull somewhere and take a nap. All right.
2805 Grand Avenue.
Just pull somewhere and take a nap. That right there, in America, ask anybody that's ever got a DUI. If they heard an officer say, hey, just pull over there and take a nap, I bet you anyone who has a DUI on their record would have instant obedience and willingness to that order, because at that point, that officer's letting you go. That officer's saying, hey, I don't suspect you of any crime. You just look tired. Like, fucking, I get it. The drive-through line at Wendy's, it takes a long time. I mean, you weren't really at the microphone when you passed out. You were 5 cars back, 2 cars ahead of you's got 30 kids in the car. And like, yeah, I get it. Maybe you're chicken nuggets. I get it. Maybe, just maybe. But at that point in history, right there, that's the one that most people are going to miss. That he had the opportunity to just drive away into that little parking spot and crash the fuck out. And that officer would have got back into his vehicle, and this wouldn't be on my screen today.
All right, you good?
But
all right. You're just gonna.
Another thing you hear right there, and I'm gonna rewind it. You're just gonna.
You're just gonna.
He's headed back to his car at this point. The guy has the clear chance to move his vehicle. Now you've given the officer probable cause. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is the key part that so many people are going to miss, that not only did this man assault these officers that gave him every single opportunity to get away with this, to include letting him go. Like, hey man, just pull off right there, go take a nap. That officer would have got into his vehicle. That officer would have left. But instead, the man did what?
My man.
He passed back out. That's what he did. Now that gives the officer more than enough red flags to pursue this. More than enough red flags. But again, go back to my question. If you're somebody that has an admitted DUI in this world, and you're somebody who says, you know, hey, CJ, I fucked up back in the 80s. It was a different time. You go back and you tell me in the comment thread here that you, hearing the words, hey, just go park it over there. That is the most 1980s thing I've heard. My dad has told me stories of, well, if you were drunk, the law enforcement just took you home back in the day. You know? I mean, if it wasn't a big, serious issue. Law enforcement was different back then. Different world, for sure. That is the closest to 1980 that you're going to get in this world. He literally had the opportunity to just drive into a parking spot and pass the fuck out. And that officer, again, here we go. But what did he do? He passed back out.
Man, it doesn't mean go back to sleep. You got to move your car.
It doesn't mean go back to sleep. It means move your car. So, again, that is a key point that so many people are missing because the media news channel wants to show the bang bang shooting and let people convict people based off of the 15 seconds of video there versus putting the whole thing in context. This is why I believe in what's called due process of law. This is why I believe in your right to a jury trial. And so in this case, if I was these officers, I would be begging for a jury trial. I would be begging because you just need one CJ in your jury say that's not murder. That's it. It's not murder. What we witnessed to, I don't believe, in my opinion, humbly, is murder. But that brings me to my point. We're going to go to J.M. Heller, attorney at law. You guys can reach him here. This is not a paid advertising. He just wrote an op about what the difference is between homicide, manslaughter, and murder. Yes, he could have just drove away to Dakota Kid. He drove away, parked in a spot, took a nap. That officer didn't care. Just, hey, I'm not here to try to get you. I just want you to move so I can go about my business. In fact, if we keep playing that video, you're going to see that he even says to himself, like he's being recorded, but he's talking to himself going, man, I don't want to deal with this right now. There goes your intent to murder this guy right out the gate. But 99% of the America and the mainstream outrage media is going to miss this point. They're going to miss this point because, again, this man did not go into this altercation with the intent to murder him. Which is, again, where we're going to break down the difference between homicide, manslaughter, and murder, according to an attorney, not me. And again, this isn't legal advice. This is just us using analysis based on an attorney in the area that would be more apt to know the difference between these. Homicide is a broad term that encompasses any killing of another human being unless legally justified. This is why I don't think you're going to be charged with homicide in the state of Georgia in this. It can be included, it can include murder or manslaughter. Well, again, I think that in the statutes, homicide, it falls on both of them, to be honest. It might be that way in Georgia. And I'll get the statutes up here as well. Depending on the actions of the state of mind of the perpetrator, all homicides crimes are very serious. Therefore, if you have been accused or a suspect of homicide investigation, all right, well then call him, right? Yeah, everything's going to be call him if you've been accused of that. But here we go. Again, murder in Georgia. Murder is the most severe homicide crime. So yes, homicide, manslaughter, no difference. Murder, they're all homicides apparently here in Georgia. So we'll just go with it. Maybe I'm learning something new today. Murder is the most severe homicide crime. While many states divide murder into degrees, Georgia only allows and recognizes 1 degree of murder. This is why I'm saying it's not murder. Now, when we broke down the George Floyd incident, when we broke down George Floyd, I had said, listen, I don't think it's 2nd degree murder. I think it's 3rd degree murder. I think if you charge 2nd degree murder, you're going to have a harder time proving that in court. And by the way, I had a great exchange with somebody who wanted to be a prosecutor. I wish they were able to come on here, but they basically admitted that prosecutors will up charges to make you take plea deals for lower charges, and I think that's wrong. I think that is unconstitutional, personally speaking. I think if you're charged with a crime, you should be charged with the proper crime the first time. That's it. No double jeopardy, no higher crime to plead to a lower crime. I think that's unconstitutional. Let me get that straight. But again, we broke down the degrees of murder for George Floyd, but I knew in Georgia, looking up the statute, that they don't do that in Georgia. They don't separate it down to different varying degrees of murder. It's one shot at murder, and that's it. So, again, going back into it, any murder in Georgia carries a minimum sentence of life in prison. Most severe penalties include life without parole or death. A person commits murder in Georgia when he or she illegally kills another person under any several circumstances. The person acted intending to kill the other person. This is not in this case. The person acted with depraved disregard for human life. For example, firing a gun into a house or vehicle the person knows to be occupied. This is not in this case. You would say the person acted with deprived disregard for human life. This is where they'll hinge it. But I would argue that the man that assaulted the law enforcement officers and the man that tried to fire a taser into the face of one of the officers had no disregard for human life. Therefore, again, it's going back to, you can almost argue self-defense at this point. But again, it's not a deprived disregard for human life. If I'm live, I don't take phone calls. The person kills another while committing a felony such as robbery. Again, this isn't the case in this case. They're trying to say it's felony murder because he was in the act of committing the felony assault. Which, again, it's not felony assault. They had probable cause. There was this is not... Again, I'm defending a cop. Hello, folks. This is what I'm trying to get at. I'm defending cops. Did we wake up in a parallel universe? Again, I'm not saying they're good cops. I'm defending them from the inaccurate charge of murder. It's not murder. What we witnessed to is not murder. Murder is a serious crime that police investigate aggressively. If you're suspected of murder, go ahead and contact this guy. Manslaughter. This is where I think it falls into voluntary manslaughter. Manslaughter is also a serious crime. In Georgia, manslaughter can either be voluntary or involuntary, which is why I open this floor to discussion to say, hey, you can come on here and tell me. Maybe it is involuntary. Maybe it isn't. We'll find out together. I don't believe the offer. I believe the cop would let him be if the other cops didn't take over the scene. Very possible, but again, he called for the DUI unit because, again, the man's passed out. He has the opportunity to go away, passes back out. Anyways, let's get back to it. Voluntary manslaughter occurs when a person intentionally kills another while under the influence of a sudden and violent passion. This passion must be caused by a serious provocation that would create such passion in a reasonable person. An example of a sufficient provocation would be a person catching his or her spouse in the act of adultery. Manslaughter is punishable by 1 to 20 years. And again, we're going to go through the statutes, but this is the attorney speaking, or a lawyer. And again, it might be manslaughter, involuntary. Who knows? So this is where we're having the discussion. Let's see here. Involuntary manslaughter is the unintentional killing of another person. The killing must result from illegal or reckless conduct of the perpetrator. The maximum penalty for involuntary manslaughter is 10 years. Although not as severe as murder, manslaughter is still serious because punishment for manslaughter can range anywhere from 20 years in prison to no prison at all. Huh? Okay. All right. And then again, thank you for J.M. Heller for giving us this very vague description of manslaughter, murder, and homicide. So let's go ahead and go to our fancy Google machine. Homicide, Georgia statutes.
According to Justia law, a person commits the offense of murder when he unlawfully and with malice aforethought, either express or implied, causes the death of another human being.
And again, that's where you're not going to get your murder charges. All right. So, Georgia Code, Title 16, Chapter 5, Article 1. Woo! Most people don't even know how or why we get to those conclusions, to say it like that. A person commits an offense of murder when he unlawfully, and we've been through that. Express malice is at deliberate intention unlawful to take the life of another human being, which manifested by external circumstances capable of proof. Malice shall be implied where no considerable provocation appears and where all of the circumstances of killing show an abandoned and malignant heart. Now, the 45 minutes of this man. Okay, let's see here. Let's break this down for the dummies that can't figure this one out. This man had, from the time this officer engaged, right here, 25 seconds in, all the way to, happens at 43, 41. All right, so he had 41 minutes. He had 41 minutes. You're going to tell me that this man, and again, normal DUI arrest, normal DUI arrest. You've been suspected of a DUI, driving while under the influence. While I disagree that there's a victim in this, it is breaking the law in the state of Georgia. And just because I disagree with it doesn't mean I can go get in my vehicle and drive down the road and think that my sheriff is not going to pull me over and treat me as a DUI arrest if I have both admitted to and acted in that manner. And just for the record, if I had done this to two of the deputies here in Leola and Eureka, they would have shot me if I pointed a taser at their face. And I understand that the universal sign for death by cop is anything in your hand pointed their direction. That is the universal sign for you're going to die by cop now. I hope you enjoyed your time and stay on this planet. A person also commits the offense of murder when in the commission of a felony. And this is where they're trying to hinge that it's felony assault. It's on subsection C in the Georgia statute. And this is why they overcharge these guys. The person convicted of the offense of murder shall be punished by death, by imprisonment for life without parole, or by imprisonment for life. Now again, that is felony murder. There are no degrees of murder in Georgia. So, you're not going to convince me that it's that. This is where a lot of people are like, there's degrees of murder. Yeah, and not in Georgia. Not in Georgia. You got to know your state laws. Manslaughter, Georgia statutes.
According to Justia law, a person commits the offense of involuntary manslaughter in the commission of an unlawful act when he causes the death of another human being without any intention to do so by the commission of an unlawful act other than a felony.
This is why it's manslaughter. All right, so we're going to go to section 3 now, 16.5-3. Okay? A person who commits this offense of involuntary manslaughter in the commission of an unlawful act upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a person commits this is involuntary manslaughter. We'll find voluntary manslaughter next. A person commits the offense of involuntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act in an unlawful manner when he causes the death of another human being without any intention to do so by commission of a lawful act, in an unlawful manner likely to cause death or bodily harm. The person commits this offense of voluntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act in a unlawful manner. Upon conviction thereof shall be punished for a misdemeanor, not a felony, to involuntary commit manslaughter when it's done under subsection B of involuntary manslaughter. When it's done under A in manslaughter, the punishment shall be not less than 1 year nor more than 10 years. All right? So let me go ahead and go back to the article here for voluntary manslaughter. Voluntary manslaughter, a person commits the offense of voluntary manslaughter when he causes the death of another human being under circumstances which otherwise would be murder, which would otherwise be murder if he acts solely in the result of sudden, violent, and irresistible passion, which is where I don't think you're going to get away with even a manslaughter voluntary. Even a manslaughter voluntary, he has to be acting with irresistible passion. I mean, yes, I guess you could make the hinging argument on after he got his ass whooped, did he think to himself, oh, I'm going to kill this guy? Well, you would think that he had that opportunity to kill him as soon as he got up. But it wasn't until the taser was fired that he actually shot the man. Make no mistake about that. It's important to remember facts, folks. And again, irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation sufficient to excite such person in a reasonable person. However, if there should have been an interval between the provocation and the killing sufficient for a voice of reason and humanity which to be heard of which the jury in all cases shall be the judge, the killing shall be attributed to deliberate revenge and be punished as murder. Again, this is where if you overcharge for murder and you don't prove it, you don't have to plead to a manslaughter. You don't have to plead to these things. You don't have to plead to it. Mr. Gilligan, I saw you try to join here as a cop. Hearing me defend cops, I would more than love your take on this if you'd like to join. A person who commits felony offense of manslaughter upon conviction shall be punished by imprisonment not less than 1 or more than 20 years. 1 no more than 20 years. So, again, this is me defending the cops, saying, hey, you overcharged these guys. I don't know for what reason. I don't know if you're playing that whole, we'll get them on a lesser charge just to plead down. But right now you've got me stuck debating between voluntary and involuntary manslaughter. And I'm going to go more towards involuntary manslaughter because, again, the man did not go into this with any intent to murder somebody that evening. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Now, he didn't necessarily... And again, this is where, again, I would actually respect the debate between somebody to say, hey, this is why it would be manslaughter voluntary versus manslaughter involuntary, but I don't think you're going to get me to convince me that this was murder. So with that being said, Mr. Gilligan is backstage. He would like to join, as always. He's more than welcome to join this broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Gilligan. Good morning, sir.
Hi, CJ. How
Well, sir, I'm not a former cop.
How'd you do that?
Magic. I'm not a cop, and so I can't imagine what it's like to be one. So I won't act like I know what it's like to be a cop.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe in America that there are great cops all over the place. I'm just blinded by all the media. And so when I see cops being charged wrong, I treat them as human. I treat them as people that deserve due process, people that deserve their rights to be upheld like anybody else. I don't think this is murder. And I don't really understand the difference between voluntary and involuntary manslaughter at the moment. And I don't think that you're going to convince me that it's not one of those two, but I don't think you're going to convince me that it's murder.
I don't think that makes a difference.
Okay. Why do you say that, sir?
Because we're living under law.
Say again?
It's kind of loud over here.
Oh, sorry. Let me mute this on my end. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
We're living under political law, and as long as you have This is the root of the problem is the attorneys and the attorneys who are politicians. And the bottom line is that these officers were doing their job. They're mandated to make arrests for DUIs. They were following protocol. The officers today, not like in my day, don't have the discretion. It's been taken away from them. This is about money. This is about federal funding. This is about the states contracting with the feds. The feds give grants to do things like red light tickets, DUI checkpoints, all this stuff.
Yep.
The real root of the problem here are the politicians, and especially the ones who are attorneys who are politicians. These are the evildoers in our system. Guys like me who became police officers who wanted to do the right thing. Hey, listen, I was in trouble every month from my sergeant because I wouldn't meet the number, and the number was the quota for tickets. You know what I mean? They incentivize everything, and to their own destruction. That's why you have all this stuff going on right now. They have to make the arrest. All this Monday morning quarterback about letting guys go. Hey, listen, back in the day before the cameras, I took a lot of people home, CJ. I put them in my car. And I would call another sector and say, hey, listen, cover my jobs until I get back. I'm taking this guy home. All right. That was discretion. And back in the day, we were our own bosses in our sectors that we were assigned. The boss, I had sergeants tell me to my face, listen, you call me to a scene, you better have a good reason to call me. Don't make me come out to the scene to verify anything unless it's something legit.
Right.
And the bottom line here is you can talk about definitions and stuff like this, but the bottom line here is it doesn't matter. We're under political law. They're making decisions based on politics, not on the evidence.
Right, and this is why I bring up the body cam footage and your words of discretion right here in this moment. This guy, all the officer said was, hey, go pull over, take a nap. He wasn't detaining him. He wasn't arresting him. He was using his discretion. It was a very rare sight to see.
Yeah. Listen, CJ, there is no discretion when you have a body camera. I'm sorry. It's a double-edged sword. The guy is obviously impaired somehow. I don't know if it's alcohol or drugs, but as long as it's on the camera and it's being fed to the department, there is, if he doesn't make the arrest, he's in trouble. And in this case, he did go to make the arrest and he's in trouble. It's a double-edged sword. This is what a cop has to deal with now in the modern era. I never had to wear one of these, so I couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? And I never really had a cell phone pointed in my face. Maybe towards the end of my career I did, but still, the technology isn't like it is today. And the bottom line is that cops today are robots. They're not their own, and discretion is gone. Discretion is gone. It's dead.
And do you think that by taking discretion from officers, because I speak about the fact that our local jurisdiction here, we don't have police, we have sheriff's deputies, and they have discretion. They have discretion in certain instances. Like, for example, our former deputy out here saw and witnessed to an altercation of people having disagreements and disputes. He could have locked us all up. I made it clear to tell him, like, Ted, you could have locked us all up, put us all in front of a judge and said, you deal it out with that guy.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. This is where we get outside the Constitution. In order for really to come before a judge or a court, a prosecutor's got to articulate some kind of injury, damage, or loss to someone.
Yep.
If you're in a dispute on the street and the cop comes up, even if it's disorderly conduct, he has the discretion not to make the arrest. As long as there's nobody injured, damaged, or there's no loss of property, you didn't harm somebody.
You're saying no victim, no crime, in all about a roundabout way.
Basically, but this is it. It's about money, and it's about tickets. It's about DUI arrests. Even when he hasn't crashed a car or run somebody over, it's about and there's the financial incentive to the counties, the state, and the feds. The feds are the ones that are feeding the states. and I hate to say it, it's not President Trump. It's your House of Representative. It's
Correct.
your state. It's your senator. They pass all this nonsense, and then they blame it on the guy in the top and who's in office. It's nonsense. And
Correct.
most of these people in our political system are attorneys, lawyers. These people want to do two things, CJ: control us and to separate you from your property, money, kids. We talk about parental alienation.
Yep.
I get sick and tired. I'm hearing a lot of nonsense. I've known about the sickness of this country for a long time, and now you want to know what? The regular Joe is being treated just like an alienated dad in family court now, and they don't like it. And you want to know what? We deserve this nonsense because the majority of us who are sitting at home, well, not me anyway, they don't want to do nothing about it. They're letting it happen, and either we wake up and we take charge of the situation, or we're going to allow these thugs, these pieces of garbage, who want to do nothing but the two things I said: control us and separate you from your property. You know what I mean? Everything. It's ridiculous. I get so angry at a lot of this stuff. And you know how I've been through the parental alienation thing. I'm very fortunate right now. I fought. I never gave up. I have my sons back in my life. I started a business with my son Kyle. He's out doing an estimate for me right now for our business, and it backfired. You want to know why? Because I'm going to say this in this way, and don't take it the wrong way. I had to become Black Lives Matter in a courtroom and point my finger at the judge and threaten him, basically like they're doing on the streets.
Wow.
I had to raise my voice and tell them I'm standing on the Constitution of the state and the federal government. And you want to know something, CJ? They shit themselves. They look at me, their eyes go wide open, because everything they do is outside the Constitution, while at the same time they're saying it is, because they're relying on my ignorance. And that's the one thing you and I have to do, and everybody else in the world. We have to get out of that ignorance pocket, and start educating ourselves and asserting our rights. And you have to become a dick. You have to become assertive. You have to get in people's faces. You have to, and you want to know what? It's not pretty. It's not statesmanship. But what has statesmanship gotten us in the last 20 years?
It's giving. Why would you give political correctness and safe harbor to people that would separate you from your children unjustly and without due process?
And this whole thing with the police, CJ, I've been through the ring with this. I worked in some of the high crime areas in New York City, and it's no joke. My life was on the line many nights. Shots fired over my head, gunplay all the time, confronting people that basically told me, F you. And then I had a witness that said, this guy robbed me and I got to take him. And now he's going to fight me. And it takes 10 of us to take him down. And you want to know what? We're all on top of him. All of us.
Yeah.
You have no idea. The public has no idea what happens at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in East New York, South Bronx, Detroit, LA, whatever those high crime areas. They have no idea what we confront, or what I used to confront. And today with these cameras and stuff like that, hey, listen, I sent a message to some of my colleagues that are still working, and I told them a couple of things. I said, listen, if you're eligible to retire, get out. If you have time in that you can vest and you have a degree, get out, start a business. And those who are recruits, don't even think about it. They're taking it all away.
I hear you. And so again, and I appreciate your perspective on it, because I've been saying I want to put good cops on my screen. I want to say, hey, there are people out there that wear the badge, that have common sense, that treat people with kindness, courtesy, dignity, and respect. We're shown that this still exists in America, that there are good cops for sure. I want to feature that. So when I look at this and I'm the guy that's saying, hey, I challenge you to prove me wrong, I didn't see the cop do anything wrong up to this point. This is the moment where he decides, the person getting cuffed decides he's going to resist this arrest, and up to including stealing a taser, which it makes you go, well, they gave him 41 minutes and 30 seconds of kindness, courtesy, dignity, and respect until they had to perform the function of their job, which is where, again, you can see him make this decision right there, and that right there is the key pivotal moment in this, where it turns from a DUI arrest to now potentially loss of life. There's a struggle. He grabbed a taser, could have easily just been a gun. And it makes you go, man, I don't know what it's like to be in this position. They gave him every chance to say, hey, I'm sober, I'm good. Like, they gave him that opportunity. They gave him that. That's what I'm saying. Is if you look at the current field of law enforcement, 42 minutes to this, you don't see that in America these days. Normally, these stops are quick, fast, in a hurry. They think you're a DUI. They get you in the check. They breathalyze you. They gave this man as much discretion as you could possibly give.
Listen, I have some funny stories about DUI arrests. I arrested a lawyer one night, a female lawyer, for a DUI on the West Side Highway, 23rd Street, West Side Highway. And this, I'm going to say it now because I'm retired 7 years, and I'm finalized. This bitch, who's a lawyer, and throwing her ESQ in my face, so that she knows people, is in custody, rear cuffed, and in the back of a van. Twice, I went back to check on her, and she put the cuffs in front of her. Put the cuffs in front of her and tried to get out of the cuffs. And what are you supposed to do? In some places, CJ, you could hogtie a person. In some jurisdictions, you can't in New York City. We didn't. Somebody had to sit with this piece of garbage because she's 3 sheets to the wind. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, and I'm gonna have your job. I'm a lawyer.
I'll have your badge on my desk by the morning. You watch.
And it's no joke. It's it was I look at it now, it's kind of funny the way it happened, but she's a piece of they think they're elitists, and the system CJ has been designed for financial benefit for the state and for the county and for the federal government. They're using human beings as chattel, as a means to make money. These cops with the camera on them are in a lose-lose situation. They must make an arrest.
They are the useful pawns in a game that they have no control over.
That's right. And the real evildoers are the ones who made the laws and signed the incentive bills. They get their grant money through the federal government, and they disperse it into the state treasury, and all the players above get their paid through the state treasury. They're benefiting from this horrible system that has used human beings as chattel to make money. Yeah. It's just like family court in Title IV, separating families. You know what? We're at the point now where they've separated the family enough that they can make this play now because they've broken the family in this country. Sure. I know it personally. I knew this 5-6 years ago after I retired, how evil the system is and where it was going.
That's actually pretty sure when I met you you were freshly retired off the force, and we were both on the airwaves talking this talk about the court system, and again, Mike, I still have this. It's on my fridge. It was just I could stay connected to my computer and get it right off the fridge. I mean, I'm telling you, I appreciate it, and I want to tell you, Mike, before I get you off here at some point, I do want to apologize to you where I was on a broadcast and I called you the last good cop in America. That was a low blow, and it bugged me that I said that.
There's thousands of good cops.
And like I said, I want to say this is Michael Gilligan, a good cop in America, and I apologize for that low blow.
And a formerly alienated parent who fought the system and I come out on top. I'm sorry that all the people got to suffer, but the only way that's going to change is that you got to become pro per in the court, and you got to be BLM to the judge.
Yeah. And guess what? You're gonna say, "Hey, I'll burn down this whole place if you think my kids are being taken from
I
me."
told the judge right to her face. I says, something happens to my kids because my ex fled with my kids to Florida. I said, if something happens to my kids while they're in Florida, I'm coming after people. I said it just like that. I paused. I said, Your Honor, lawfully, of course, but I'm going to come after people with my eyes wide open.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
get and they start looking around at the court officer starts walking over, and I ain't afraid of these people. I don't care no more. You got nothing to lose, and that's the way you have to be. And these people now, I just don't get it. And cops got to just do one thing: nothing, absolutely nothing. In New York City, you know what they tell them? Let it fall apart. They will eat themselves.
Oh, wow.
They will eat themselves.
Wow.
I've seen it happen. They will start these people, these Black Lives Matters people. They're doing all this protests. Back off, and they'll be fighting each other. They've been looting, stealing property from buildings and commercial establishments, taking it out of the place, and then they get robbed. The property gets taken 2 or 3 times by some other perp. They're destroying themselves. And that's
what do you think the solution is? I mean, obviously, other than telling the law enforcement officers time to turn in the badge, find a new line of work. If you're a recruit, just forget it. I mean, what do you think we actually do as people? Is there a way that we can change this as people?
Hey, listen, we can't tolerate. You can't tolerate the violence and the intentional violence and the theft of property. And I hate to say it, but the only thing that's going to beat the force that they have is a force greater than that. And maybe we as citizens have to band together like a so-called militia, a good militia, and put on football helmets and big and masks and baseball and bring back the Louisville Slugger, and we got to start kicking ass for the cops and tell the cops, hey, listen, go get a cup of coffee. We'll take care of this.
Yeah.
Because no matter what the cops do now, they're firing cops for nonsense and all this stuff. If it be
non-compliance, I heard, is a big problem. If you so much as for example, in Seattle, there's an example of they'll take you out on your first week of training, and they'll let your trainer kind of do something illegal, like with a little immunity, to test you to see if you'll turn them in.
Yeah, listen, CJ, the police departments in this country, and I can only speak for the NYPD. And the leadership is I call them the multiple choice champions. You take a civil service test to become a cop. It's a multiple choice question test. Okay. There's other than that, and they give special treatment for those who have difficulty with the physical part of the test. Even when they get into the academy, I can remember we all had to do certain laps, but some of the people that couldn't do it were given they ran in a little circle in the middle. We're hiring people because there's quotas for minorities. We're not doing this because we got the best people out there. I'm sorry to say that, but we have a lot of good people, but it's not the cream of the crop. You got people on the police department that shouldn't be cops, period. I've personally, and I'm going to tell you this because I can say this now because I'm retired. I've been on physical force arrests where I've had to take somebody to the ground, and I could have used me and my partner could have used some help to get the person under control. And I can remember a couple of instances looking up and seeing my colleagues just standing there doing nothing. You know what I mean? And the person that I arrested did something wrong. You know what I mean? I used to tell my partner towards the end of my career, I had a young partner. I was, I had over 15 years on the job. I used to tell him, it's just me and you out here. It was a roll call that day. We had to look around the room. I said, it's just me and you out here today. The shit hits the fan. I don't know if we got backup that's really going to be able to help us. And I worked in the area where the Lincoln Tunnel is. And we used to run into all kinds of craziness. Emotionally disturbed people, very, very violent jobs could be. Domestic violence, VAWA. There's another topic you should get into there.
Again, just this officer and his partner or not partner, but his colleague. In this moment, there's no backup. It's split decision. It's a split decision right there that changes the course of everyone's life. And it wasn't made by the officers. This is why, again, Mike, I don't think it's even voluntary manslaughter at this point. I think at best it's involuntary. I mean, you can't say that there's not a body, but if there's a crime, I don't even think it's voluntary manslaughter.
There's no crime. There's no crime. The guy turned around and used deadly physical force.
And in that case, I've been walking it down from murder through all of these, and I say that at that point, they say he was shot in the back, but he's actually turning to shoot a taser in the face of an officer, and the officer's on the record saying, "I heard a bang and saw a flash." I'm assuming that he's going, I don't know if in that altercation he grabbed the gun. If he's, I don't know at that point, so exactly. And I'm not a cop. I'm not in that scenario. No, and what I'm saying is that if that was me and somebody's pointing a taser at me, why would you bring a taser to a gunfight? Yeah. Why I have a family at home. I'm not going to allow you to tase me, incapacitate me, possibly take my gun and harm me. So again, I'm not even saying I even said I'd hear out voluntary or involuntary manslaughter. And at this point I just go, at what point does an officer not have the right to self-defense?
Yeah, it does. Listen, the cops are not going to do anything anymore, CJ. And every crime statistic in the world is going to increase. Murder.
Do you think that this is a planned thing by certain political aspects? You said we're under political law.
I just think it's political law, and I think they're taking advantage of a crisis. And these politicians are caving to the extreme left or to the communists is what they're doing, and they're and they know what they're doing. Like they're violating due process, and they have been doing this now for decades to us. People don't know their rights, CJ. They don't know how to assert their rights, and the lawyers are in on the game. They will subvert your right. They will send you. They will act on the outside. Everything is administrative law, political law, to do what they say, how they want you to do it. Forget about the Constitution. Unless you, as a person, make it come alive in a courtroom, it's dead.
I love how you put that. I love how you put it. That they will. You have to be the You have to be the Constitution.
The judges and the lawyers say they're all beholden to the Constitution, but everything they do most of the time is outside it, administrative and political. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, they'll make it look good. They'll let you go, or they'll do the right thing. But in family court, it's all incentivized. There's a financial incentive in everything. DWEs, red lights, and all these things like red lights. You could pull somebody over for a red light, and then it goes up to a DWE because the guy is wasted.
So it's like a trap.
Oh, it is. And not only that, we used to have red light overtime in the NYPD.
What's red light overtime?
You have to come back with a book of summonses, a book of red lights.
Oh.
This is going on everywhere. You don't hear about this. And the state is giving the city grant money to do it. Cops are getting paid overtime, time and a half, double time to do this work. And
it's like Title IV funding. There's incentive for the money by the government.
That's what I mean. It's about control and separating you from your property. Wow. That's all it's about. Hey, it's just like, I know you're a big libertarian now. I'm a member of Freedom Law School. Freedom Law. Paymon Motohere?
I've heard of it.
Yes. Well, you sure to get involved because you want to know what? You want to know how people could get even with the government? Don't file your 1040 because there's no law saying that you have to file one. That's what I would say to the people, and I become a member of that organization, and everything they've done has been a ruse and a trick.
Well, Mike, you are always welcome on my broadcast, sir. Again, my apologies, Michael Gilligan, a good cop in America. If you're a law enforcement officer in America, please follow this example. We need more of this. Mike Gilligan, who went from being a cop to talking about the issues to being smash parental alienation to inspiring somebody like me to continue to fight for my rights. This is what we need more of in America. So when I say there's no such thing as a good cop in America, I'm not saying there's not. I want to be proven that there is. And this is the example and the standard I'm trying to set for every cop to say, hey, listen to this man's words. He's been here. He's been in your shoes. It's a different time, but this is the era of policing where people mattered, and he proves it every time he talks.
You ought to do a show on VAWA, because that's being challenged now by a guy in Maryland. He's challenged it because it's unconstitutional. This Schumer's going out now to try to do add to VAWA, the Violence Against Women's Act. It's a violation of the 14th Amendment. You cannot not have equal protection under the law and give special treatment to another gender.
Correct. And again, the 14th Amendment didn't give us freedom. It turned us all into slaves.
But the thing is, you know what the real issue is ignorance. Because people don't know what the 14th Amendment is. People don't know what the 5th Amendment is. People don't know what the 4th Amendment is.
Correct.
I'm teaching my son these things now. I'm teaching him how to deal with a cop if he gets pulled over.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Like, he's got the most inside of inside baseballs that, like, hey, yeah, no, well, see, my dad taught me about the cops through his experience with them. So, but for those that don't know, all persons born naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections under the law. Mike, that amendment is so, we could talk for days on that one, for days. Yeah, but I will definitely look into the organization you mentioned there, and I want to thank you for coming on. Again, I know I'm tough to deal with on the internet. I know it's hard to hear my rhetoric. And
hey, listen, this Carmi here, I see that you shaved your beard. So did I.
Well, I shaved it from a dream I had, and I was like, well, it's time for a fresh change. I needed a change, so.
Yeah. Wow, that must have been some dream.
It was very weird. I was running around. Cops were involved. I think Adam Kokesh and my mother made an appearance. It was like, I don't even know what to say, man. I just woke up and like, this gotta go. We need a change. So, yeah. But Mike, thank you for coming on. You are welcome on anytime, any day. You click that button. You are front of the line, sir.
Thank you very much, CJ. Have a great day. Be safe.
You too, Mike. We'll talk to you later, sir. And all you got to do is click leave, or you can stay. Either way, your choice, sir. But again, I like I said, I don't think it goes back to – I think it goes back to there was no intent to murder this man. The officer was acting in self-defense. I don't really think you can get this man on even an involuntary manslaughter charge, to be perfectly honest. But – I don't know. I mean, again, this is why we have trials. This is why we have due process. I'm not an attorney. Most likely you watching are not attorneys. But it is good to get the perspective of a law enforcement officer. And like I said, a good law enforcement officer. Law enforcement officer that I wish more law enforcement officers would be like. Then we'd actually have change in this country. Change in policing. But it's a complicated subject, folks. But like I said, I'll hear you out on involuntary manslaughter. But I will not give you a murder charge of. And again, the first person to totally send a bad cop to the gallows. But just being a cop doesn't mean you're a bad person. I separate your profession from you as a person. You still have your rights. So I advocate for these officers to have full due process, to allow all the evidence and witnesses to come forward, not only against them, but in favor of them. And then I hope for a jury that knows the difference. Have a good day or don't. The choice is always yours. Adam versus the Man, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. Hope to see you there. We'll see you next time.